All right. Well, a bit of an impromptu collaboration and a pause in the What Are Humans series. Leumas is back on Unlocking the Code, and I'm back on Chan It Down, and one of the founding members. And you guys actually we haven't done a show together yet. Angus is here to discuss a few questions that we have come up with. How are you, mate?
I'm well, thank you.
And look, my phone's telling me that I'm live. That's good. So how do we want to play this, mate? We've got 3 questions. Do you want me to ask the first one? You ask the second one, and we just got a few little conversation starters that I think are going to spin us down a number of different rabbit holes. So,
yeah,
do you want me to ask the first one?
Yeah,
what do you want
we'll start that, and this is not What Are Humans Part 5, but think of it as like a little side piece to the whole discussion we've been doing for a while, and we got Angus's input too. So we're going to go off of some questions that kind of go into this subject matter a bit.
The ever ongoing mystery of what are humans and what is the civilization that we actually see and that we're researching and that the evidence continues to grow of. I think that's and all the topics in between.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So would you want me to open it up, mate? We'll do the first question.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Why do you suppose humans are such an anomaly on this planet compared to humans and the rest of the Earth? And the caveat there is, if we're not from here, where are we from? But I think that's part of the conversation. And why don't we spin it to you, mate? What's your thoughts on that question?
I think pretty much without a doubt with this research that we've been doing on What Are Humans, prior research that I've done before we even started this show and just, this series of shows, it's a glaring answer in our face that we don't match anything on planet Earth. We're not adapted to this planet. Our defenses are not there for, like, if we were the most evolved thing on this planet, which we're supposed to be, at least, why would we not have all the important things that animals have, all the important characteristics that animals have to survive on this planet, and yet we're the dominant species? We've gone over the fact that we can't, swim that well compared to for a planet that's 2/3 water, and we can't climb trees that well. We can't, there's a lot of things we can't do. We don't have the natural defenses. Like even a house cat could shred us to pieces because we're like, we don't have any defenses other than our brains, and then we can try to get away or whatever, but we're pretty useless in nature. And there's just so many different parts of the human species that don't match this planet. We live like we're tourists on this planet. We live like we don't belong here. We don't know how to live here. And I don't like getting in the vein of like the World Economic Forum and all these environmental policies they're trying to put in, because they're taking advantage of that, but they're taking a truth and warping it to their liking. They're saying basically, that we are destroying the planet, which we kind of are, and the way we live on
definitely.
it.
There's definitely a way the way that we live on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they're taking advantage and saying we're the polluters of carbon, and that whole nonsense. That whole thing is just to get us in control. But we don't live very well adapted to this planet, and we can't live in many climates. I mean, the thing goes on and on. I just like, we're an anomaly. We're amazing too, though. Let's not just forget where the humans are incredible, and the human will and what we can accomplish is truly amazing. I think our souls are from divinity, but our bodies have been tinkered with. It's true. You can just see it in our genetics. But anyway, without going too much further, go for it, guys. I'm just sort of riffing.
Well, can I just sort of address a couple of things that you brought up there and suggest maybe some not so much solutions, but just theories. And these are not necessarily mine, but I'm just sort of putting their theories from the zeitgeist, from research from the past. But So one explanation that now I don't know if this plays out this way, but I'm drawing analogies from other stuff I've seen. So are you familiar at all with like any of the domestication processes of animals and what happens to animals when we start to line breed them and stuff like that? Like for instance, I think there was an experiment with a fox done, and it took maybe 3 generations of inbreeding, line breeding, to get changes where the red fox changed. They got patches. Like if you look at dogs, domesticated dogs now, all the things we're familiar with them, brindling, the different patches like white and stuff like that, those characteristics started to come out in these foxes. Oh, and their ears went floppy. So normally a fox's ears
stand up.
They went floppy.
So within 3 generations,
so these didn't domesticate them, but you could start to see mutations, genetic mutations from inbreeding. So the thought experiment that I'm putting out there is, what if we are a product of a lot longer timeline than is generally accepted at the moment? And when you give yourself that longer timeline, tell me, if we're talking ancient past civilizations, how many? What are we thinking? How many are out there? Is there one previous civilization, or do we think? Is there any evidence to say that there could be multi?
Yeah, I think it's the second one.
Because if it's multi, now we're blowing out that timeline. Now every time a civilization ended, and possibly smaller ones in between, were there cataclysms?
Yeah, many cataclysms.
Well, did we reduce the gene pool? Like, as in, we reduce the genetics, and then inherently survivors are inbreeding, right? So then you start to develop these characteristics, and we lose our hair.
Well, yeah,
our eyes change color, because that's what happened in the foxes. I think their eyes went blue as well in 3 generations. Right. Like, so there was a lot of, when you get inbreeding, you get a lot of weird genetic mutations that occur, and I feel like that could. Now, look, I'm no geneticist, and I'm just throwing it out there. This is purely anecdotal, but I'm like, that could be something to look further down into, to be like, well, if we were here long enough, could that happen?
But also, I mean, okay, so let's think about D or the above. So what if we have been here for millions of years? What are we currently doing now? There's CRISPR, there's all these things. The reason we understand more about our genetics, the fact that we've seen our telomeres are capped, is because we have the technology to do that. We're already genetically modifying ourselves, right? And I think I saw something out of Japan the other day. They reckon that if you can live to 250, they reckon they've found a genetic code. Whether it was clickbait or not, you'd never know these days. However, it's possible, right? It's possible if you take the Sumerians, Kings list and all that sort of stuff. And our bodies can regenerate, but our telomeres are capped at 120. That's what they say. So what if it's both?
That's important.
Right? That's an important
exactly.
There's another theory as well, is that upgrade, downgrade. Okay, so maybe it's D or the above. Maybe we have evolved on this planet. You know, I mean, how old are we really? And how many different civilizations are we looking at? I know one of the theories we had back in the day, man, was that there's those series of temples that should be on the equator, but they're not, and they're out the same degree that the moon, as you know, it's the wobble, right? If we were corrected, the temples would almost be around the center of the earth. So it's like, then are those temples measuring the wobble, or were they there before the wobble was here?
Were they once on the equator?
Yeah,
it was the basketball theory. That's when we were working with slipping crusts.
Yeah, slipping crusts and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it's like, what are we actually looking at? And part of the modern alternative research is like the lost civilization. What if it's lost multiple civilizations?
What if a previous civilization? So I get the feeling like the one previous to this has left behind a lot of information that maybe they were a lot more enlightened and a lot more spiritual. What if a one before them were not? Because, you know, we see it in politics and stuff like that. the pendulum swings,
and it's a cycle as well.
Right, it's a cycle, exactly.
Yuga's
So what if a previous one was not spiritual and the spiritual one was actually a swing away? What if they were got to a place where they could CRISPR and genetically modify?
What I mean. So what if there was
stuff like that? But then a cataclysm occurs and all evidence across time is erased.
Well, and that's the thing, is it though? Because it's like the universal symbol for medicine is the pole with the two snakes around it, and
right.
Time immemorial.
Yeah. You do a bit of research who started it, and no one knows.
It's everywhere. In Greece.
It's everywhere.
It's like what the?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But then you got to think too. You got to think too, though. Like
I think it's cool.
Those foxes. Let's say,
of course,
just
to finish that thought, the entwining snakes are obviously DNA as well. That's the thing.
Yeah,
One's
they are
from that DNA. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do they know that? How do they know that? But
Yeah.
let's just say we take those foxes and we look at their genetics, their chromosomes. If something had telomere caps, it's going to have it since the beginning of that species. So that means that with the beginning of our current Homo sapiens sapien, we've had these telomere caps since we've been this exact species. And so something changed that. And what's that?
Yes.
That's a real important
something changed
question.
that. I mean, there's the upgrade and the downgrade theory. You know, like if we had access to all of our brains and let's say we live for 300 years, is magic then going to be real because we can actually see what's going on? Like we're actually using more of our brain power. Like what if 1% is true? And then we were downgraded. There was another theory that we were downgraded at some point in the past,
which is where the telomere capping would probably come in.
Exactly.
And there's meant to be actually, like a capacity downgrade as well.
That's right. And so it's like, exactly. So it's like, it's not, you only live to 120 and you only get 30% brain power because,
because when you were telepathic, you were fucking scary.
That's right. Well, so, let's think about humans, right? Let's think about if we, a lot of us wouldn't use our powers for evil. However, if it's Homo sapien, man, some of us definitely would. It's like, you guys started throwing lightning bolts at each other. You can't do that anymore, right?
And then that leads us straight into if that's the case, if we got capped,
then who's Space Daddy? Yeah.
Who was the watcher? And was the watcher the one that created us in the first place?
Yeah.
And that's probably the crux of the whole thing is I call it interference theory. I feel like humans were interfered with rather than intervention, because intervention almost seems like we've been saved, from what? So interference, it seems like whatever we were before we were Homo sapiens sapien, before modification or whatever, we knew we were on a natural evolution, and it was interfered with by something that said, we want to control you. We want you to be only living so long. And of course it's in the text, it's in the Bible, it's in the Sumerian tablets. I mean, that Bible story, it's
part of the story is that you can only live to da 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 da. That's part of the story.
The Tower of Babel, is that the Tower of Babel? I think it is. So
Tower of Babel. I think that might have been part of the story, because we could all speak the same language, and then we became too powerful because there was no differences between us, and we realized that. And we created the Tower of Babel, and then the gods knocked it down and said no more, and then split us across the planet. And now we don't speak the same language anymore. That's the thing. Imagine if we could, because most of the misunderstandings would go away. It's like,
and where are we re-entering to? A place where we could possibly all speak the same language.
That's true.
And what did they do? Threw up World War III at us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whoa, not having that happen.
Whoa.
So
we can't risk pedophiles, and you guys are getting along way too well. We can't have that.
You guys are on the brink of communicating. We can't have that. We need to continue this division. Because we've seen it before.
That's
what happens when you guys?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And is that leads to, is there an eternal watcher? Right? I mean, of all the craziness of the last 7 years, they've said multiple times that aliens are real, and no one cares. Like, I waited all my life for them to admit that aliens are real, and no one cares. But the reality is, with that, we haven't actually seen any real evidence either.
No,
that's just.
But just the fact that that's actually happening is pretty crazy to think about. Like, imagine I think this is what I thought about the other day. I know this is sort of going to well, it won't lead us too far off track, but when we were growing up in the 80s and the 90s, it was a monoculture. It was a one culture. Like everybody saw the same movies and everybody like, you know, kind of experienced the same things. We were all in, you know, kind of in the same grooming process, if you will, but more, you know, just like we all got all the same programming. And yeah, now everybody's so fractured. Like, you know, there's little camps here and there of everybody's interests, and whatever you are interested in online, it throws you more of that algorithm. And so you're just in these isolated little bubbles. So I feel like because we don't have that monoculture anymore, they can't really go get the president of the United States or some world leader to go, yes, aliens are real and they're here. The effect of that in the 80s and 90s would have been mind-blowing. Like people would have,
that's true. That is true.
Right. But now
we still had, there was a period in the 80s and 90s when we still had belief of the systems. I think, you know, the last 30 years has proven point blank. It's like everything is bullshit.
Yeah.
Tell me something that isn't. It all is. Take your pick. Any institution you can choose.
Well, and to piggyback on what you're saying, what did they always used to say back in the 80s and 90s about disclosure? They used to say the public wouldn't handle it. We would have panic everywhere. Now, what did we just say has changed? Belief in the institution. So they disclosed that aliens are real, and no one even blinked an eye. And we moved. We sort of went, yeah. We've been so programmed and desensitized. We went, I'll believe it when I see it. Like, keep coming. You know, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah. You guys are full of shit. We know that.
Whereas back in the day, when we were more institutionalized, more monocultured, it would have been like the moon landing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if they had done it in the late 80s, early 90s, it would have been like the falling of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah. Massive things.
See the big flags and everything, and Clinton up there.
But I mean, and you sort of touch on it. You touch on an interesting thing with the monoculture, is that, as you say, in the Western world in the 80s and 90s, we all experienced very, very similar things. You could, but we're also very much together as well. Because I mean, if you think about the 80s and 90s, we didn't care about color, creed, or religion or any of that sort of stuff when we were hanging out, man. There was people from all in Australia. There's people from all walks of life. There was still bullying and that sort of stuff, but there was no, you know, us against them. It was more.
Oh, there was in places.
There was in places, but I mean, they were supposed to. I'm not. Yeah, I'm probably.
Well, no, but the media hadn't made such a big deal about race and schools and stuff. Like that was a different thing about back then. Is you could like maybe even get away with talking a little bit of like not racism, but just like throwing some shit at somebody, and they wouldn't get so offended. And then now,
he was messing around. He was messing around.
Yeah. And so like, maybe it wasn't as like there was still more actual racism, but I feel like by the 70s and 80s, I don't know. I guess Australia might be different, but in the US, the races were kind of naturally just sort of like mingling together, and it wasn't a big deal until the 90s, and they put out political correctness, and then everybody's offended, and everybody's got to have this identity and stuff. That all changed.
Yeah,
but
that shifted society, didn't it? You know, it shifted us away from that casual racism of the 80s.
Casual
racism, and literally there was. I remember there was a point like we had a little bit less multiculturalism. Let's be honest, than what we do now.
Yes.
So you had like a lot of like token families. Yeah. So you would have the Indian family who'd have the Indian takeaway shop and the Chinese.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you know, you'd call them like, I'm not saying myself, but I'm saying people would call people like what would be considered a racial slur now
today. Yeah.
But it was a nickname instead, because it's like, well, there was almost like that assimilate culture. It was like, listen, you're coming in, we call each other shit names.
Yeah, that's right. It's not nothing wrong with it.
I don't know who you are, but this is the obvious one.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to cop that, and if you just wear it on the chin, like we had, I think our first part of like the whole melting pot was basically like when the Greeks and that like
Greeks
fought
and the
back.
Italians,
the Greeks and Italians fought back, you know, and gave shit back. It was the same. It was same as when the Kiwis, came in.
That's right.
Kiwis just took it on the chin and gave it back, and we went, yeah, fair game. All right.
Yeah, you guys
No
are okay.
worries.
But everyone gets so offended these days. But I mean, I think the division's definitely been highlighted. But one of Angus's
I think it's been procreated.
Well, it's also been
it has.
It's been fertilized.
It's also been fertilized through these things.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's
and
like
gaslit. It's gaslit.
There was more. Well, with the monoculture thing, there was more of a sense of community.
That's what we could all
follow the same stuff. Like there was more of a sense of that
understanding
and cultural norms.
Yeah.
Because it was like, did you watch that episode of Friends last night?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what race you were. Like in school the next day, that's what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, that's everyone's talking about.
Sort of thing. Like so there was, which gives, it might just be, benign small talk, but it gives that feeling of community because we're all always sort of humming on the similar subjects. Whereas, like you said before, it's a little bit more.
And they're movies as well. Like you would wait to, I mean, like Jurassic Park, all the movies that would come out, and we would watch it come out from the US, and it'd come to us. And
3 months later, then we'd get it.
Then we'd get it, and everyone would go out and see it. It was a bit of an event, and it was a thing. You know what I mean? There was a lot more. There's more ritual. That's what they're more like. They're like cultural ritual type things. Obviously, it's all programming if we go back and look at it, but there was still a sense of understanding between. As I say, community. I think because
and I think they were in the process of. Well, if you look across from the 50s through to now, look at the isolation that we've undergone in that time. So at the end of World War II, and we had the nuclear home with 2.5 children, or if you're in Australia, there was 6 or 7. I don't know if you guys had that boomer sort of thing, the post-war. Repopulation. We had the same thing. So you had like 6, 7 kids, and then you had the husband and wife, and back then we could, right up through the 70s, we could afford
a single income.
Mum stay at home, and we'd live fairly comfortably. Within your means, sort of thing. Obviously, different people had different things, but there was that. And we've been slowly broken down away from that model. We've been separated from our family. They broke up the family. They sent women to work, basically. Through that movement, and now we see our children less and less because now we're both busy, yada yada, that kind of thing. Like
daycare is raising children, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yep. I remember in the 80s that was the beginning of the divorce generations. Like at least here in America.
There's another
the litigious stuff that's the suing people in the 80s and stuff like that. Like I remember, like the Landmark, that lady sued McDonald's because the coffee was hot and she won.
Right.
And then that sort of the other one that I remember, because it always just makes me laugh, is it was the winner. Someone bought a Winnebago, and it said it had cruise control, but so old mate's traveling down the highway, hits the cruise control, goes in the back to make a sandwich. Obviously, the car, the thing rolls.
It's not auto drive.
Yeah. But in the manual, it didn't say it didn't drive itself, and he won. And like those were the two landmark. And it's like, well, if you can get away with that, I'm going to sue you for everything. You know what I mean? Like it's like sets a precedent. Like, but I mean, all these things are very interesting to observe, and they add to the whole. But I think the larger question is, we sort of, watchers, controllers, right? It does feel, and it does seem that it is a narrative we're being fed a narrative. This is not something that's just like the division, the ongoing division, the use of the devices and the bots and the division and the division and the division to keep us distracted. Because we are so apathetic, man. But one of the things I struggle with is the cognitive dissonance and the apathy for what is actually going on around us. Like I struggle with that in my day-to-day life. It's like I don't understand why we're not rioting in the streets over some of the things we found out about, particularly this year alone, or even the last 5 years. Like,
so true.
Well, I
no one paid for COVID. No one. They're not.
I think it comes back to a marker of them being of how successful their programming.
And this is what I mean. Like how
the
well
isolation,
done it's been. Yeah, man.
The fact that we're so isolated, whereas you require to have uprisings, you require groups
and community.
People have to get together,
and
and basically in a silo. and unify and have a, they all are thinking the same thoughts, and then that group grows, and then that group attaches to another group, and you gain the numbers that way. But we're so isolated.
Yeah.
Anyone who seems to form a bit of a group, it's like they're ostracized immediately.
Yeah.
Because as extreme on one end or the other, and that's how you can just quickly get rid of any kind of group that might even not seem like it, but may revolt in 10 years' time.
That's right, and
with the wrong thing.
And the thing is, there's a level of responsibility we must all take, because, yeah, cool, we can see it, but I'm going to go to work on Monday. I'm going to work tomorrow. You're going to work tomorrow. You know what I mean?
They've got us hamstrung.
That's the
they got us stuck. They got us stuck.
Yeah.
And so were we made to be this? That's we're going back to the beginning. Is like, were we made to be these workers for?
Well, I think it leads
energy
into the next
harvesting.
question. I think it leads into the next question.
Yeah,
I think it leads into the next question. Why do you think that slavery, wars, gold, violence have shaped the world history? Why have we never grown out of it? And I think, the obvious one is the gold. Were we made to mine gold? Like, that's the Anunnaki story. That's the Anunnaki story. And we have an uncommon fascination with gold that I know we've discussed before.
And the dots join together. If you get to the point where the Anunnaki interfered or intervened, then the rest of the story actually flows quite well as to why we are now the way we are, like with our obsession with gold, why we're so, if we were designed to be a subservient species, why are we obsessed with hierarchy? Like, why do we always fall into these hierarchies?
Why do we need,
and was it possibly a genetic mutation that may have occurred after? Okay, so maybe we were designed to be this, and then let's say the Watchers left.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the story too, though, isn't it?
We've gone through cataclysms. The gene pool got drastically reduced, which, there's the...
What's the 10,000? 10,000. In theory, we all originate from about 10,000 humans that survived 70,000 years ago. In theory,
yeah,
that's the volcano in Sumatra, the super volcano in Sumatra.
So that's just one of
apparently reduced the population down to 10,000.
So
globally,
we accept that inbreeding can cause genetic mutations. So maybe what if we were quite a placid slave race? Which would explain, like, you and me and stuff like that. We like digging in the dirt and being workers and shit like that. And then through genetic mutation, we develop these just a little blip, little psychopath over here. That,
but we're probably mirroring a hierarchy that the Watchers left behind as well. Right, because there's the deity thing as well that does. Because there's the deity, there's the religious thing that is weird as well. Considering, as I say, it's the 29th of March 2026, and we might be, in the next World War III / Holy War. That is crazy, by the way. However, there's the religious thing as well, where my God's better than your God. And is that?
That's part of the trail.
That's part. It's part of the, because that goes back as well, right? Well, it's more monotheistic now. However, every culture had the pantheon, right? There was the pantheon, and the pantheons. If I had my notebook, I could tell. I've got a few pages of notes on this, but basically, the pantheons joined together. If there's a cultural interpretation. However, at some point, it went from a global civilization that had a similar pantheon with cultural local interpretation that we see that's the civilization that we're chasing, and then it became about, well, no, my God's better than your God, and my God told me to fuck you up. You know what I mean? Like it's, and because that was
the next evolution.
Once
we got to the Abrahamic religions, the monotheistic religions.
Well, not really, because the original Roman Empire slaughtered their way through half the world when they were.
No, you're right. I was just they had the same. The pantheons and the monotheistic religions had like similar things, but I'm just saying the monotheistic ones are a more modern version of just the old ones. Yeah, one God incorporates all of the powers of the old gods, into one sort of thing. The ever-present, ever-knowing.
But then the interpretation of that story as well. I mean, it seems to be the echo, that the culture that we're chasing, the echo seems to be that it was global, and it was, the symbols are similar, everything's similar. So it seems to be that everyone sort of half agreed. You know, that's what
we had a global communication.
Yeah, we had a global,
we all spoke one language.
One language. We understood.
Yeah.
The similar symbolism, and we obviously allowed local culture interpretation, and then it did really become about, my God's better than your God, or my version of the story is better than your version of the story. You know,
and what's the origin of that? Like, what's the origin of wanting to worship something, or
that's what I mean. That's the deity stuff. Yeah. Why? Why do we have to? But
like, why do we have to have leaders in our society? And like, oh, we need that. You know, like, is it really necessary to have all these powerful things that dictate us? Can't we just thrive and be free? And
well, the reality is Donald Trump supposedly is human as well, right? You know what I mean? Like any of these people that are in positions of power, you know, the one that I like to say is like, doesn't matter, you know, choose whoever you want. They have a massive bowl of nice hot curry. They have an interesting shit the next day. You know what I mean? Like that. They're all human, right?
Yes.
But they have. We've put them in these positions of power, but we're all theoretically the same. However, we can't talk about that, or we can't, you know, like
we're all theoretically the same. Here's just a thought: we're all theoretically the same, but we all know that, you know, the kid that was always good at anything, any ball sport, picked up anything, the guy that could, you know, spell a bit better than everyone else, yada, yada, yada. Now, these are the people you knew at school, the spectrum of specialists that you knew at school. Now, what if you divide that up, you spread that spectrum right across a country? You're going to get some more interesting outliers amongst those. And as a group, we tend to recognize people's strengths. And what if that's possibly how like the game started? Like let's rewind right back into straight up. We're exiting out of like a hunter-gatherer situation. We've got some food surplus, and people aren't having to live subsistently. How at that stage, how are we going to assign responsibility? Like are we going to identify? Well, we're going to identify strengths, aren't we? Now we might identify a strong leader, someone who was able to fight off some other dude and give us some kind of like, it would have started. What I'm getting at is it would have started very basically to begin with.
So you're talking about, you're basically talking about tribal hierarchy. Is within a tribe of people,
that sounds like
certain jobs. Yeah, it sounds like a tribal hierarchy.
Yeah,
and
I think that's natural. I think that's probably natural.
That's part of human. I think that's part of being human. However, it does. But then why do we have to? Even outside of the natural hierarchy that forms, there's the deity thing. There's the, you know.
Yeah, no, I was talking to the why do we need to be in a hierarchy point, and I was taking us back to, well, if you walk it back to when,
if you walk it back to
the most simplest form,
when
the tribe got to a point where it had food surplus, so we're entering into an agricultural era. Well, art and stuff is able to happen then.
Yes, that's
because
right.
you've got downtime because you're not always hunting and stuff like that. So now you've got creative time and downtime, and you know, not even on the leader side of things, you get creatives, you get people sitting over in the corner tapping on a log and creating rhythms and stuff like that. You get musicians, you get people who make textiles. You know, you get all this division of skills. Now,
but is that so? Do we think though? Are we talking? So let's say we're intervened. I think that we were a hominid on this planet, and I think we were intervened, or intervention, interference, whichever way you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about base tribal stuff. So we already sort of sorted ourselves into a hierarchy in a tribal situation. And then, you know, the USS Enterprise drops in from outer space and makes us feel better, you know, gives us healing and shows us how to do things. And they have a hierarchy as well. You know, the hierarchical, you know what I mean? But it's I can see how it plays out. However,
take
why did we let the system where the psychopaths win become the dominant one is probably the larger question.
That's the point that we get to.
You know what I mean?
As the population, so we go from a small tribe of 1,000, and then we grow into states and nations and continents and stuff like that, and we fill out. There's a natural progression of psychopathy as the world increases
in this version that
I know.
Yeah, in this human version,
there is a progression of. There's always got to be someone at the top. You know, look at the empires that we know of, the way in which we've been taught. Someone's always got to be at the top of the empire. What created that? Was that a natural progression, or is that an imitation of
or
something else we've seen?
Or what created civilization? Because civilization came out of nowhere.
It's unnatural. Yeah, civilization is unnatural.
And the way that we live in civilization, to where we rely on the food to be trucked in or brought in, where we're no longer going out to get it, and no longer
surrounding it for ourselves.
We're no longer self-sufficient. So when that was brought into human society, you take those hunter-gatherers that maybe have a hierarchy, but you throw them in civilization, and the world's suddenly complex, and it has a whole bunch of new social things going on, a whole bunch of new hierarchies, and you have to have a hierarchy system to have a civilization. You have to have common rules and kind of laws, because everybody's living on top of each other, which is totally kind of unnatural for humans. And so that's why I think that when humans, whether they were bred to be in civilization or were they taken, created, and then here's civilization, I don't know, but that's the unnatural part where we get away from, we get away from kind of being connected to nature. Because we've said in the past on the show, we're part human, we're part earth, but we're also part something else. But
something else, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the earth part of us connects with the earth. So when we're in nature, we feel connected, but we're not fully that either, we don't fully fit
we're
in
not.
There.
Yeah, there's definitely something that when you go out to nature, you feel a lot better. However, you're still drawn back to civilization. But I mean, even so, like I've lived out in Fernvale now for, 10, whatever it is, how many years now it is now. However, when I go into the city, because I don't venture into the city too much, it's a lot, man. It's a lot energetically. It's a lot like just a lot of people, man. It's a lot. Like it's when you venture into that civilization, what we understand to be civilization. And I was thinking about something when we had a conversation the other night. Me and Kath went down to South Bank, had a date night down at South Bank, and we were speaking, sort of talking about the fact that it had been a while since we'd been in the city by ourselves and all that sort of stuff. And we're on South Bank, you're the Brisbane River, and then there's like the skyscrapers of the city. And I could almost see like a shimmer. You know what I mean? Like you look across the river and it was like a shimmer of the buildings. It was like almost like a different part of the matrix. You know what I mean? Like it was if you cross that river into those big buildings, you are moving into something that is not where you are right now.
Probably saw the vibration.
Yeah. It's like, it's like it didn't look good. Like it was like, and I remember again, but there's different versions of us as well. Because I worked in Edward Street. I was on 413 in Edward Street, and I remember them offering me a corner office because I was the logistics manager. And I said, where does my team sit? And like the other people that worked in the team sat in just a little quad, and there was a spare desk there. I'm like, no, I'll just go and sit in there. I'd rather be with the team, rather be with the tribe that's actually getting the job done than sitting in some bloody corner office. And I remember there was a percentage of people that just couldn't believe that I turned down a corner office that had a window and looked at another building that was just as ugly as the building I was in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it was a symbol.
Yeah,
is what it was.
And but I've never been part of that. That
they expected you to accept the symbol.
Yeah. Well, but I've also always struggled in those environments with those type of people. Like I've always been different. I've never functioned well in an office, right?
They're corporates, man.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. That's a different version. Like they are really slaves. Like the idea of sitting in a cubicle for 8 hours a day doing anything, I would totally go insane. Like I would just, I would only last so long. I couldn't do it.
What a disconnection from the earth when you're in a cubicle all day. Then you get in a car, commute. Some people in cities like here in Honolulu, people commute hours in traffic.
Yeah,
and
hours. Yeah,
it's terrible. So that's your life. Then you go home and you watch a box that's telling you what reality is. There's something very wrong with all that. I've never fit in that. It's just not.
It's isolated.
Yeah, I
isolated
do it.
And disconnected, isn't it? Yeah,
it's called slavery. It's slavery.
Yeah.
It's just
it's slavery, man. That's what I was sort of getting at. Like they're corporate slaves, really. Like you can do that,
and that's that department. Like we're slaves as well,
we're
when we do our sort of stuff. But that's that's that division, like that division where you go and work in a concrete tower, inside cubicles. It's like, whoa, I might be a slave, but I cannot go to that level.
Yeah. Like existing in that environment to 40 hours a week, there's no way. I mean, we're still, as you say, we've still got mortgages. We're still slaves. We're still slaves to the debt that we've created, but we choose a different way. You know, it's like,
we make it in a different way.
But there's also, like, I saw a stat, like these people that live in the city, how long, there's people that go weeks, months without their feet touching the earth, like grass.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that you are disconnected from the planet there. Like I suppose part of being an Aussie bogan is we walk around barefoot, but that's a different.
In some places it's more accepted than others.
That's right. However, there's lack of connection. You know, it's because and like I wonder when we talk about different versions, right? So if we're different versions and types of humans. So let's say a materialistic version of a human survived the last cataclysm, and they created the society that we currently exist in. However, there would have been people from the spiritual side, that other bit of society that we recognize, that would have survived then as well. And I think there's those of us, us three included, that we look at the world and can't make sense of it because we're not of that part of the world. We're not of that planet. We were survivors of the previous civilization where it's like, this stuff is crazy. Like, you guys are nuts. What are we doing? Does anyone even know what we're doing? Like, I can sort of see what's going on, but I can't understand how we get to that point. And then there's as I say, the actual, the bees, the drones, the sheeple. Sheeples are the term that I like.
Well, is that a soul level that we're talking about? Like, because
it's a good question.
Siblings, because it's not like really a family thing. Because like you could take two siblings, and one is totally into the system and just loves it all, and just part of the mainstream normies, and then the other one could be a tinfoil hat wearing, conspiracy analyst or something.
No, we are not conspiracy theorists anymore. With the current run that we have, we are oracles. Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah,
we are truth speakers.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition. That's all it is.
Right,
yeah.
Pattern recognition.
But I mean, I say, okay, so let's zoom out a bit and let's get a bit weird, right? Who are the Watchers? Yep. Right. Okay. So let's take it. We at UTC, we all go as 1% is true. Okay. So if 1% is true, aliens are real. Something is in the ocean. The civilization that we are is probably 3, 4, who knows how many times older than we actually understand. There's been multiple versions, but it does seem that we've either been allowed to survive or we've been lucky to survive. I mean, humans are pretty good at survival. I mean, the only time, actually, it's quite funny. The only time you really experience true community anymore is when there's a something's coming. Natural disaster's coming, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we can get along and help each other.
Yeah.
But then once that's done, it all goes back to normal, right? So not normal, goes back to the other way. So it's like there's different versions of us as well. And at soul level could be a thing, man. You might be onto something there, right? So like, yeah, but then is this a soul trap? Is that why we keep coming back around? Is that why we have a memory because honestly, man, like for me personally, a lot of the research that I've done over the years, it's not like I'm finding it; it's like I'm remembering it, and I don't know how to explain that. But
no, I know what you mean. It's like a puzzle piece comes in, and you go, "I know that fits." I don't know the other piece. I don't know where that other piece is, but I know that's part of it. It's not just like
it's not a one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not just on anyone else's research path. But I was going to say the Watchers, right? So it would, if we were modified, then who was that did that to us? And why would they look at the human species as cattle to go ahead and say, I want to limit their life to 120 years. I want them to be downgraded or controlled in some manner. Who was that had that mindset to look at us Homo sapiens that way? Like who?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Like it couldn't just be another group of humans. It would have to be some other species. And to be honest,
you would think,
yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to the ancient aliens theory totally, because I think there's a lot of evidence to it. I don't like to go like, yes, it was aliens right away, because there's a lot of steps to get there to prove that, and we don't know that. So, but it doesn't sound that far off when you think of a overseer group said that Homo sapiens need to be modified. Somebody in some weird mindset did that, something that was intentional, some intelligence.
And the question is then, are they still here? And are there current watchers? But are the current watchers the watchers that created us, or are they taking advantage of a situation?
That's right, because the current version of humanity never ever lets an opportunity go to waste, especially to squeeze the people of the planet. Especially over the last sort of 6 or 7 years, realistically, they didn't let any opportunity go to waste.
Well, apparently, if we want to talk with the current paradigm, apparently, okay, we're ruled by reptilians, right? Cool. Were the Anunnaki reptilians, or were they a different race? So
I've asked that.
If we're going to run down the ancient aliens Anunnaki train, cool. Let's say that's the predominant theory right now. All right. Well, if we're ruled by reptilians, what happened in between? When did the Anunnaki leave or reduce, or was there a battle? Did they lose? Did they step? Why were we being battled over? Was it a soul thing?
Well, that's the other part. That's the origin story. 780,000 years ago, the Pleiadians, the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, were chased by the 3 brothers of Orion across the stars, and they battled it out above this planet for us.
Is that reptilians and Anunnaki?
Yeah, is that the Greys and the reptilians, or because the Greys is the other one too?
Another species in there. Well, there's lots of species in there. Is there a galactic council?
Is there a galactic council? Because
if we just want to go right into the whole,
if 1% is true, multiple people have come out and spoken about a galactic council, and some of them were prominent military people from across the world, and they just poo-pooed them.
Well, how much strength do we put into like astral travel and channeling? Because people channel Thoth or the Panel of Nine all the time,
right?
Which
that's important.
Seem to operate like a watching kind of thing as well.
Yeah,
which is like, okay, well then there's that. But what species are these channeled interdimensional beings, or is there multiple factions vying for our attention?
I think we live in a multi-populated universe, but I think that the human side. So if we were taking the story like what started this whole series,
there's even 7 factions of humans, really, as well, isn't it?
Right, yeah, we haven't even got to that part of what are humans. I have a whole bunch of notes, but what if we were taking it, like the story, like what started this was the Lloyd Pye video, everything you know is wrong. So if that's true, which that video really rings true to me, a lot of what he says anyway, not all of it, but most of it. And so if the Anunnakis look like us, and they intervene them, where they fuse them together with apes, then they certainly weren't the reptilians, if we're going to go there. I mean,
fair.
That's fair. That's a fair call.
Well, I mean, the other one that's across all religions is that we were made in the image of God.
Right.
That's the other one. That's the other one that echoes across all cultures, all religions. That we were made in the image of God. That's so therefore, God's looked like something like us.
For the sake of this argument, let's say then that the Anunnaki looked like us, maybe in some way, shape, or form.
Bipedal, whatever,
mammalian kind of things,
bipedal, something like that. Yeah.
Obviously, the genes were close enough with my year 10 level of science and knowledge of genetics. They're close enough to be able to splice them together.
Yeah, it's all trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Trust me,
with their carbon-based organisms.
Yeah, that's right.
That kind of thing that allowed them to splice in. So let's run with that for the sake of this argument that they were somewhat like us. So then, is it whose control? Who is the watcher now? And how did that happen? And what
version of the watcher is there as well? Because obviously this version of the watchers is allowing psychopathic, pedophilic, narcissistic, sociopath lunatics to run the planet. You know what I mean? So like if someone's watching over this going, oh, that's what the top of the world, that seems to be what everyone's doing. You know what I mean? There's just darkness at every corner at the top echelons of humanity, it seems.
And
what
you
kind
can
of
go way
watcher is
back
watching
too.
us now? Like this is the thing.
But you can go way back into all the pantheons, the religions. A lot of them required blood sacrifice. They required only one God. Well, at least in the Bible, the biblical God of the Old Testament's like no other gods before me. And so what are we talking about here? So controlling. And then if you even look in Enlil and Enki, let's say that's true with the Anunnakis. Let's just go on.
They wanted to wipe us out, didn't they? They wanted to wipe us
Enlil
out.
did, they weren't nice.
And old mate knocked on the wall and said, "Prepare for it. The flood's coming. Prepare."
Wasn't it Enki that came with the science?
Yeah.
Yep, he
did. Science, like technology,
and
knowledge.
Me and Leumas looked into this. It's Nin Herzog was Enki's wife, and she was the geneticist.
Yep,
that's right.
Right, and it's interesting how in a monotheistic religion you leave out the feminine, and the feminine is the geneticist, which it makes sense because without our mums, no one's here. Like that's the reality.
Well, the feminines in modern religions is made to be the evil one, as in Eve gave Adam the apple from the tree of knowledge, and that's what created the downfall, sort of thing. Like Lilith, the creation of the Antichrist, like
all that stuff.
It's always
the darker.
It's always the darker and the feminine.
Right.
So it's like the feminine's been made to be evil.
But it's interesting because in the ancient symbolism, the feminine symbol is the moon because the ladies are ruled by the moon cycle, right? They have their own moon cycle, right. But they would be genetically modified to have that moon cycle. So does that mean then that means the human female was made when the moon was dropped off?
I thought that's the link you were making. Is the moon?
We can't forget about the moon.
We can't forget about the moon. Yeah, weird thing happened.
We did
on
that
the way to
show.
The moon. We did.
We did that show, and
Look,
actually, there's a lot of truth
and more.
there.
I mean, absolutely. If there is a watcher.
Well, you want to speak about anomalies, like in the human race. Well, there's another bunch of anomalies right there with the moon and the way in which there's so much information about it, as in like being 400 times closer than the sun and 400 times smaller. Just such a coincidence that it can perform a solar eclipse so perfectly.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller,
it was 1 degree out.
It's not a thing.
Yeah, if it was 1 degree either or in any direction.
A lot of perfection there.
Yeah.
That suggests creationism of some kind, way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And when did the moon get here? This is the other thing.
And then there's
too,
cultures that remember the world before the moon. Hey, we're getting some listeners.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
A couple of listeners this late hour.
Yeah. G'day, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Don't hesitate to ask a question.
Yeah, feel free to chat, guys. Ask questions. So going to before I lose my train of thought, which I think I just did.
Watchers, Anunnaki.
The moon, right? So the moon, like, where could that have been a separate? So talking about reptilians, or let's just say they exist, and that's something that apparently people see. What if that is another round of beings that came here from the moon, and they were maybe reptilian, or who knows? Just theorizing. I mean, we're totally just going
if
off
there's watches, you'd have that. If someone's watching over the Earth, you think the moon's probably a pretty good spot to do it from as well.
Yeah, that's true. The literal watchers right there. Yeah.
The literal watcher. Yeah, and then it's like, why does it feel like we remember when we're researching? Have we been here before? Is this a soul trap? That's the other story as well. Like, is this a?
Well, have we been here before? We were talking about the soul before, but let's shift the gear over to, instead of the soul, it's consciousness. Let's step into simulation theory for just a moment. Is part of the reason why we feel like we've been here before, because we've been in the lobby and we've checked out and we've signed back in for another game.
Well, actually, I had a glitch in the Matrix today. I'm so certain I saw the same red Nissan 370Z. I saw it, and then I saw it again, and it was this I've never seen that sort of red Nissan's 370Z. That's why.
Okay.
That's why, pinged in my mind, and then another one, like 2 minutes later, another one, the exact same color, the exact same specification.
Couldn't have been the same one. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Way you were traveling.
No. It was along the highway. It was along the highway on the Warrego.
Oh, right. Yes.
And it came there. The red one came back that way.
Yep.
And I noticed it because it was a weird red, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a color. Again, I like this in 370.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, nice. That's a nice red. Yeah. And I'm driving along, and then like 3 minutes later, the same car.
The lady in the red dress.
And I was like, what is that? That seems like it was a glitch, man, because it's like that. I've never seen that red. I see another one within 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Like, I don't think.
Or is it that you activated your mind to start noticing those things? Because like, now that my wife bought a certain car, and now that she had bought that car, I noticed it everywhere, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's the same. We just had the little blue Mazda. I'd never seen that blue before, and now I've seen like this 4 or 5.
100%. That's the common one. That's the one that we all know about. But I think what makes Triff's example just slightly different is the fact that he has no association with a red 370Z. If he had bought one and saw two, I would be like, you just never seen them before because you're never looking for them. Because that is quite common. But for today, to see them twice when you have no association with them apart from the appreciation for the model.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's weird. Two basically that's identical cars. Yeah, it's another level of sort of absurdity, which makes it interesting.
I mean, and look, simulation theory is an interesting one. Like, the math suggests that we are in the simulation. If you want to break it down, and the thing is, a simulation, the simulation as well would also explain the insanity of it, because how many people do we see every day are NPCs? They're non-player characters. They're not part of the game. You know what I mean? And they've found a way to manipulate the simulation.
But are you an NPC for somebody else at the same
Well, that's
time?
true too. Exactly. So yeah, exactly.
Those moments, those, actually, speaking of driving, those moments when you're driving and you tune out, and you go, you sort of come to, and you're like, oh, where am I?
I'm driving a car.
Okay, yep. You lose track of time on a long, like on an hour-long drive.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that you might go into autopilot for fucking 20 minutes of that drive if you've driven that path multiple times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So in that moment, are you just becoming an NPC in someone else's video game? Like when you were just logging off?
Yeah, maybe you're entering into a different part of the game where it doesn't matter. So you just like it's like the cutscene in a video game.
Yeah, you're going beyond the rendering.
Yeah.
So you just zone out for a moment till the system can catch up. It's a weird it's a weird thing that does happen.
But it would also explain.
But you're always thinking though. You're thinking, right? But there's some people in the world that don't have that inner voice.
Yeah. I heard that like 40% of people don't have an inner voice. I don't know what. I've got several. Like,
I can't turn that shit off. That shit is everywhere. Sometimes I need it to just be that way.
Mine have conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. You're observing a conversation.
That's part of my. That's how I like take sides in arguments. Is I actually post the questions to myself and have like a mini debate
to the council.
Yeah.
Post it to the council. Yeah.
And then what I move forward with as beliefs is the results of the debate. That's how it happens in my head. And it's weird, actually, with this connectivity that we do have around the world now. It's weird to hear that there is a community of people that have that, and then there's a community of people that don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have that.
And I'm like, who's the normal one?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Who's the what's normal? It's a real weird one to know. Like, and that's one of those things you get to know.
When you take psychedelics, though, you do see the simulation a lot easier. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Even sometimes when you go out, if you smoke some weed and you go out, at least when I go out in the world, things behave differently and everything. Sorry, my phone keeps going off. Things behave differently, and it just seems like
for my dog in the background too. I'm sending as much telepathy as I can to him, but he's just an old fella. There's obviously a possum in the backyard.
The filter will pick it up. It'll focus it out. Sorry,
part of this. No, I forgot. But what was that?
Simulation.
And
you seeing parts of simulation using certain substances. Yeah,
psychedelics. Yeah.
Well, 100% to agree with you there. The reason why I did bring simulation theory up is because that is possibly where some psilocybin may have taken me in the past.
Yeah.
In some of the trips that maybe I've been on.
That we can neither confirm nor deny whether that have happened.
Yeah, exactly. But let's just hypothetically say that maybe they did.
Yeah.
The answer was yes. It was almost undeniably true.
Yeah.
Like that's what the shrooms were trying to say. They were like, duh, of course it is. Like the soul is this, you are all part of this consciousness that is experiencing itself. And that consciousness wants diversity in experience. So it wants the highs and the lows. It wants all the data. Basically, let's analogize it like Meta wanting to collect your data through your input into Facebook or all of their apps that they have, Google and stuff like that. They just want to collect your data because your data is a resource and they can off-sell it onto other things and onto other companies and stuff like that. Well, kind of think of, as a layman's analogy, that's kind of what Source wants to do. Source just wants to collect data of experiences, whether it's tragedy, whether it's excitement, exaltation, satisfaction. It wants to know every single human reaction and emotion in every single possible scenario in an infinite sequences of scenarios. That's what basically those kind of experiences have told me.
Yeah, you are the universe experiencing itself in a meat suit for a little while. That's what you are.
100%.
That's all you are.
100%.
Yeah.
And there is inside that theory, there is absolutely no reason why there couldn't be alien civilizations coming from other parts of the galaxy, the universe, whatever it is, different dimensions even, because it's all still parts of the same consciousness experiencing itself. And it's just adding to the infinitesimalness of it all, because obviously that experience and that life is different to what our life in this situation is, or even my life to Triff's life. He experiences different types of highs, different types of lows, different types of tragedies, different types of happiness, to break it down to the basics of human emotion. So that's basically where psychedelics have taken me. And then to add to your comment before about sometimes THC maybe taking you to a place where you're watching things around you and they're operating like differently. It's almost like you're observing your surroundings in the third person.
Yeah,
you're kind of sitting in the control room,
in the role play game,
and you're noticing because in general day-to-day life you don't see mistakes so much, but sometimes if you were to step back, if you were the organizer of the activity, you're like, oh, that quite didn't synchronize where I wanted it to. That didn't go the same way as what I planned it and stuff like that. And I think maybe we step into that observer role a little bit with certain substances like that.
But also, as you grow within yourself with the help of those substances, you find yourself, you're in more control of your existence if you observe the world like it is a simulation. Right? If you can reach observer state in any situation, you can see it. You know, you can see it so much better now.
Yeah.
Well, I think we
can get to that
practice.
calm space.
Yeah, I think the substances sometimes might
accelerate the learning.
Well, and indoctrinate us into that space, or actually introduce us like,
yeah, this is what's possible
mentally to this, and then over time you're able to access that space without the substance.
And there's also the zone as well, right? There's also, I mean, what's that? I feel like you're almost harnessing more of your inner human power when you're in the zone, whether it be on, like, you know, playing sport, on a bike, on a surfboard, you know, like you would have experienced zones, you know, like, you are
the flow state.
The flow state.
Yep.
Yeah. The flow state is something else as well. Like the things that you can achieve in a flow state as a human, upon reflection, almost seem superhuman. You know, like that's the thing. You can achieve things in a flow state you can't normally achieve in your everyday existence.
Absolutely.
But it's very difficult to attain and achieve and maintain.
It's hard.
I think what it is with flow state is if you're trying too hard, you don't get there. It's just you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're kind of there. You're just there, and you just. But you have to be in the right zone, like, you know, because.
I think observer state leads to flow state. If you can perfect being the observer, you'll be able to find the flow of whatever situation you're in. You know, that's where focus goes, energy flows, as it says on the sign just up there. Like,
yeah. Well, you're like the third person in the situation. Yeah. Totally.
Well, you know how from third person perspective, when you're further away from the problem, it's
you don't often see it. It's not affecting.
It's often quite obvious to you. Whereas when you're in the first person, you can't see the forest for the trees. You know, but when you take that step back, you can break it down to brass tacks, basically, and be like, oh, this is the situation because we're removed from it, which then, like you say, enables the ability to plan through something, which enables the ability,
if you can see it,
enter into the flow state. Yeah.
I mean, and they just sort of talk about ideas of getting to sort of stoicism as well. Stoicism is one of those ones that I've really resonated with. Rereading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and a few other little bits and pieces, Bodhi Sanders' book as well. It's like that's what those guys were talking about in a lot of ways, is just being able to be in the moment and deal with the moment as it comes and understand that, do you have ultimate control over that moment? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. However, you got to take it as it comes anyway.
Well, ultimately, the only thing you have to control is yourself.
That's right.
In those moments.
If you can master yourself in those moments, then you can deal with those moments with more efficiency.
That's exactly right.
Maybe it's a good conscious thing as we go through every day to just go back to that observer state, because we
have to try to. You got to try to.
We slip too much into these roles we got to play, and we lose that centered. I mean, you know, stress and fear will definitely take you out of.
Well, we come back to the fractal division, don't we? You know what I mean? Because okay, so then let's extrapolate. Imagine if a group of humans could go, okay, we're all going to reach observer state together. We're all going to reach that state of consciousness together. What could be achieved? There's nothing if you collectively, you know, if you talk about the energy of, you know, some of the flow states we've got in with some of the things we're doing. We get in flow states with the show, and it, you know, what that creates. Imagine if you could extrapolate that, and we would realize it's like 8 billion versus 10,000. You know, like that's the reality, and we would understand more and be better. However, the fractal division, as you say, from a monoculture to just the fractal division of everything. Just take your pick. It divides along sport and religion, just everything. And, you know, and what this thing has done to isolate us and divide us as well, you know, like
and distract us. Yeah.
You know, and look, the reality is, gents, we're getting older. However, we are the last generation that existed in analog and digital. Right? We remember a time without the screens. We remember a time without all that stuff.
We're an important generation for everybody else to learn from below us. Like we're that last link.
That's almost our generation's responsibility is what we pass on about the time before is the last of what will be passed on. So it's important that we pass on important things to know. And I liked that there was a comment that, what was that guy's name? The JRE episode we were talking about, the one that flipped, was it? Oh goodness, now I can't remember. Anyway, there was a guest that was on JRE recently, and he started by saying his stepfather used to take him to these rendezvous, and they only can take things from 1840 or before, from around that time period. So, and it's almost like a Renaissance fair, but it's not a Renaissance fair. They camp out and they sort of live like they would have pre-1840s for a week or two. There's usually, like he was saying, there's usually like a local historian or something connected to it. And they actually like keep people in check. You know, you can't wear your Nikes out there. You got to wear time period sensitive, like moccasins or something, whatever.
Take yourself back to that period of time.
But one thing he said when he did that, he was like, it's so easy to settle straight back into that way of life.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful disconnect. After a week, you're not even thinking anymore. Like, and there's no electronics allowed anywhere near the activity.
Yeah, I bet it's really a lot more simplicity.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty. That's the thing that I think we need to pass on, is how easy that actually is for us to transfer, and how much of a distraction the electric psychedelic cocoon actually is, and what it's created there to do. It keeps us in that other realm that
and the vibration, those negative vibrations.
Yeah, it keeps us in that zone, moving in that direction. And it's the easiest part about it all is if you just leave it and walk over there, the amount of time it takes to adapt is shorter than you would actually think.
Yeah, we're attached to a system that we don't have to be a part of.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you know, and actually settle into that groove straight away and be like, oh, that feels pretty natural.
Well, I've told this story before. However, it begs telling again. When I was allowed to stay in a village in Papua New Guinea for 3 days, by the end of the second day, I was seriously questioning my entire existence.
Absolutely,
because I was I could stay here. I could stay here and contribute to the village. This is great.
And what is expected of you is so little.
Yeah,
you know, compared to what our society expects of you. The servitude you're expected to
the absolute servitude.
You know,
we've got it all wrong.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And so that goes back to civilization, like the whole concept of it. Like when I've gone backpacking, where we go hike with all of our stuff on our backs and go for like 3 days or something somewhere, like I actually did for Sacred Site season 1. You go out and you have all your supplies with you, and you get in that groove of nature just like that, and you don't want to go back to civilization. Like you don't want to go back
when we were at Jackals last time, we do the same. When we go to Jackals, it's like we don't. It's like we could just.
I actually find it so freeing to be able to pack like you're hiking. Even if you're car camping around cars and stuff, if you pack for that trip like you're hiking, it's so satisfying. If you've got everything in a 60-liter pack, your food for 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it is, your bedding and everything's just in there. Life is so much easier. You know, it's my preferred form of camping. I hate all of the coffee machines and the 12-volt systems and stuff like that these days. It's like, it really frustrates me. And look, to be honest, there's a part of me that I love to go even without an esky sometimes, you know, like there's nothing cold. We don't have cold.
Yeah.
We're going off.
There's no ice in nature.
Yeah, exactly. We live in the subtropics. We wouldn't have ice here. So you have to, whatever you've got with you has to be able to survive without refrigeration.
Yeah.
You know, that's even the next level of freeing.
It is very freeing. I actually read a quote not long ago. Well, actually, I've known it for a while, but I reread it. It said, "We are now losing the last people who spoke to the last people that were free." So, you know, thinking about like the people that
say that again. Say that again.
We are now losing the last people that spoke to the last people that were free.
Wow.
And I'd say we I'd say that quote's a little bit old, like 90s. I think it came from somewhere in the 90s. So I mean, really, we lost those people. That and I mean, okay, it depends on where we're talking about in the world at that particular time. But let's say that a lot of the tribal indigenous people that lived before a lot of the takeovers happened and their lives were changed, they lived, pretty free as far as I know, and so none of that
they
exists.
They would have the tribal hierarchy that would have existed, however.
But compared to ours,
compared to the level of servitude that we are all under every day,
we'll sort of look at either your ancient Australians, your ancient Hawaiians, the whole island culture that's strung out of like what was it, Micronesia or whatever it was, all the way across the Pacific. All of those ways of life were so much simpler, freer than what the colonizers brought. Like it was a totally different system.
Well, there's that story of anywhere where in America, there's a lot of American stories where the Indians would capture Westerners and they'd live with the Indians for a few months and they'd mount a rescue to go and get them. They're like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to come back.
There's a famous lady that went back. She got rescued.
And
then she escaped to go back again. There's
I can't remember her name, but there's multiple stories of that. Where,
I know.
I was visiting a village for 2-3 days, and by the end of the second day, I was like, "Hey, this is questioning the entire civilization existence." Like that was my reality, and I was a lot younger too. I was like, I was in my 20s when I did that, and it's like it's.
Absolutely.
And I suppose, look, we'll probably wrap it up in the near future. However, we're sort of circling around the last question, which is why do you think we have forgotten what it means to be human and our responsibilities to the planet? But I think we almost answered it as well, whereas I think part of us is human, part of us is not. Part of us is something else.
And part of us is distracted to think, to lose the connection.
Yeah.
We're distracted away from the connection. And we're holding these values high that
don't mean
that
much.
Only the phone tells us is the value.
That's right.
Yeah.
When we've created things that actually don't mean anything, like paper money, and like you could just go down to what does it actually mean? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. That's we have forgotten what it is to be human. But I wonder whether part of us isn't, and that's maybe why. But we can fall back into that. I think. We've said this, and I've said this. I said this the other night, and I've said it a few times. We've talked a number of times tonight about the overarching narrative and control and the watches and all that sort of stuff. If it wasn't so terrifying as it seems what they're trying to do to us, you've got to applaud how well they've done it. Like the layers of control that we're all under every day, that we have to. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Choose. Don't go to work then. Go and live like a hippie, or you got no power. You got, like we're all attached to, the power bill comes in, the water. There's so many layers. You've got to get education, and there's just so many different layers of control. Whereas a lot of the education would have been tribal education back in the day. Like there's many different layers to it. Like it's
within community.
But we can't romanticize the idea that all the tribal life was peaceful and happy, because it wasn't. I mean, I can take Hawaiian history, and they were slaughtering each other all the time,
all the time,
and sacrificing to gods. Which so I guess there are certain tribal groups I can think of, though, like the Bushmen in the Kalahari Desert in Africa, who were peaceful hunter-gatherers that actually had no they were egalitarian. They had no leaders, really. They were just
leaders
wandering. They were nomadic. Same with the probably some of the Aboriginal tribes too, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, look, for the record, when I was in Papua New Guinea and I asked them about cannibalism, they said, oh no, not anymore. Sometimes in the highlands, though. Sometimes. Don't get lost in the jungle in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, because you might be taken and eaten. But and I was part of a tribal war during my time in Papua New Guinea as well. So, but is that so? Okay, well, here's a different question. is the warring, violent part of humanity, is that the earth human, and the other stuff is the
inherent?
Is that inherent?
Yeah, I would say that could be the animal side of us. The more
could be. That's what I mean. Is that the earth side of us?
Because do animals? Well, animals don't war against each other, but they definitely fight against each other. You know,
they definitely fight. There's definitely hierarchy. There's definitely yeah. Well, it depends on the animal, I suppose. Yeah.
Well,
that's true. It depends on the animal.
Step down into baboons and chimps.
That's true. Yeah. Like, chimp nation, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Whether we were genetically modified away from them or not, or evolved away, like they look fairly close to us. I can look into the face of some kind of ape, and you can see expressions that tell me that we're more closely related than me to a pufferfish.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So for me to observe them and say I see some kind of hierarchy there, it's like, I think that's a fairly astute observation. You know, you can definitely see there's leaders and stuff like that. It's funny actually how different animals choose different sexes to be the leader. Like hyenas are primarily led by a female. So are like elephants
are matriarchal,
and the bull is like a pain in the ass. It comes in and sort of does a bit of rape and pillaging and stuff, and then fucks off again. Then you go to lions, and then now the lions sort of like, have we imitated parts of nature? Because I look at a lion structure, and it's like it would kind of be how we would like to do. You know, the in charge male just sort of lays around and breeds with everyone. Like I can think of some cults that do the same kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there seems to be a lot of different structures. Yeah, that possibly different parts of human society have tried to imitate.
But the reality is that we don't know how imitation's one, but communication is the thing. And the thing about the human is that actually, I was thinking this before. You know, it's a good way to reach the observer state. Just remember that everything around you is created by a human, right? About when you lose perspective about how great we are, and there's positive aspects to it, good and bad. You know, you're in Hawaii, man. We're in Southeast Queensland, and we're having a conversation. Like the enormity of that, and how amazing that actually is. So it's like we do get caught in the darkness of the modern world, and I think we've highlighted that, but it isn't all darkness. And I think you know, being human, do you know what's actually, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but in general public, I've actually noticed over the last little while that there's been a bit of humanity come back in. Like there's been a bit of I've experienced more moments of, you know, someone taking my trolley back, or, you know, someone saying g'day, or, you know what I mean? Like people have actually said, oh, g'day, mate. Sorry, mate. You know what I mean? There's been a bit of an uptick of seeing the other people around you. Now, I don't know whether that's the incoming crisis and everyone realizing that we're all in this together, but, you know, I don't know. Or maybe I'm trying to look for the silver lining.
You're spot on. I did see some humanity today at the local resource center at the tip.
Yeah, right.
Oh, there was one dude going off his trolley. So that was the opposite end of the community, of the humanity. Yeah, though he was sort of going off at the staff at the dump and that. But
what are you going to take it on those?
Look, I don't want to take up the time with delving into it, but it was a good watch. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Well, you know, there's still good in the world, and there's great people in the world. I mean, you know, so we can't like always. I always like to tell, like when I do my own show, just, you know, life's amazing. There's great people. There's a lot to, you know, live your life to the fullest. Have a good day. Yeah, you know, enjoy what you can. I think it's because we live in a time though that there's life-stopping events, like world-stopping events, 9/11, COVID.
Well, I wanted to mention 9/11 and the fear-generated society that was created post 9/11. Like there was definitely a marker there. Like, you know, like there was definitely a fear-generated society that was created on a global level after 9/11, and only those of us that existed prior to it, but that had some, you know, that we can see that, you know, like,
Well, prior to that, everything had been, it's like we'd had the die down after
the World War II, and the Berlin Wall fell.
Korea and all that sort of stuff, it was always offshore. It was never in the US. It was never in Australia after that time. And we got right up to like Desert Storm, and it completely like created a disconnect, and it kind of was the start of a new insertion back into our world, that 2001 9/11.
And
it happened.
The amount of control mechanisms that came in after that.
Bingo. Yeah. And it's been every event. There's been a heightened security, heightened surveillance, heightened everything like that. Every step along the way. Every time. So it's been 2001. We had the global financial crisis that shifted a lot of stuff in the economic space as well. That was 2009.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah. Then we have lots of shootings.
Before.
Like, I don't know about in Australia because, not as many. You had the Port Arthur thing, but
that's all it took.
That's all it took.
1996 and 1996 was that one, and that one changed Australia's gun laws and basically gun culture, because we were an agricultural culture up to that point, and shooting was just a very common pastime, a lot like in the US. It's a very common pastime that a lot of people partook in, but it was kind of like a changing of the guard where because of the laws that came in, it drew another line between the wants and the want nots. There was the part of the society that went, yeah, you know what, I don't really require that, so that's okay. And then there was the other part that were like more still agricultural part of society, not so metropolitan, that were like, hey, we require these things as tools.
There's tools,
and you're removing tools from my everyday life. So that was another divided society at that point, and it kind of skewed us, and we shifted a little bit. We still have a gun culture. It's just we can't have certain types of mechanisms. That's all it is. And it's kind of reformed itself, and it's funny actually, because I think like at this year and last year, I think we were actually on a surge in like gun license applications.
People are trying to get their gun license.
Yeah, exactly. So as they can at least have a firearm, probably for when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, probably.
You don't think COVID would have contributed to that, would you?
No,
not at all. No way.
Yeah. Oh well, boys. Look, I think we might wrap it up. I think, and yeah, this was an excellent conversation. I think I don't want to end it on negative though. I think the last question was about remember what it is to be human. Remember that we're all brothers and sisters on the same big blue ball hurtling through infinity. Remember that everyone has a good day, everyone has a bad day, everyone's doing the best in their existence just like you are and everybody else is. And if we could all understand that and just give each other a bit of respect and a bit of understanding and a smile and a nod, and there's small human interactions and gestures that we don't understand how they affect other people. It's like,
and the distraction wants you to think the opposite.
Exactly, it costs nothing to be nice.
So that's why you should think about community and integrity and stuff like that, because the distractions want us not to. They want us to isolate. They don't want us to talk to one another.
Yeah, that's
because the more isolated we are, the easier we are to control.
And that's our responsibility to be a human, is to be able to give people that respect and just be good people. Like that, I think there's a responsibility to be human, and we need to be following, natural law, the laws of the universe that, golden rule,
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
The golden rule.
So I think that's what we're meant to be, is that, but obviously they don't want us to be, but that's kind of the key and to stop following orders. Like, there wouldn't be a war if all those people over there just decided to say, I don't want to be part of this. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, because they understand what it is to be human. And that's not what it is to be human, to go killing other people. I mean, like, you get all these enemies in a war and you realize these people have families. Some of them, you're just shooting them, killing them. I mean, they're cut off from what it is to be human.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you actually study wars and history, especially, like, there's multiple stories in World War II of people running into each other they went to school with, and they're on the enemy side,
Yeah.
Right.
Or there's the soccer matches that they decided they'd have a soccer match and share food. And
at like Christmas time.
At Christmas time, they ceasefire and they went and had a soccer match and everyone laughed and then shared food, and then, 10 o'clock the next morning, the machine guns open back up again. It's like we don't have to participate if we don't choose to. And I think the best way to live your life is just try and do your best and live with some sort of integrity and respect and honor, and let things play out as they are. And that's all we can do, really. There's not much more we can do.
Just be good to one another, and you'll actually see the good side of humanity.
Yeah, and you can get on more people's level than you think too. Like I've realized that I talk to a lot of people with my job, and I talk to people from all over, and you can get on a level with quite a few people. You don't have to always like be on the divided side.
I think there's a key here to meet people where they're at. If you can understand that someone's different,
exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
Meet them where they're at. Meet them where they're at. You're not going to have high level esoteric conversations with all people, but can you have a positive human interaction with another person? Of course you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, gents, anything else to?
No, I think I'm all out.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty done.
Yeah, I think I'm spent.
Me too. Well, I think we could call this what are humans 4.5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Yeah. No, it was awesome. I knew it'd be a good conversation between us. Yeah. No, it'd be good. It was cool. So
it's great to finally meet you.
Angus, I didn't mean to. What were you saying?
That's all good. I was just saying it was great to finally meet you.
Oh yeah,
and do a podcast, do a live. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there to do some more, so that'll be good.
Yeah, we'll be live in the sanctum, mate. Yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait to sit across the desk. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, cool. Well, guys, we'll end it here. But thanks everybody for joining in. We had about 2 people. That listened.
We didn't tell anybody. We didn't say anybody. No. There's still one there. I don't know who they are, but thank you to the one that's been there for quite a while. Appreciate that. But we didn't say anything or tell anybody or promote it in any way or shape or form. So it doesn't. It
is what it is.
I mean, if I'm coming from my country, this is really late. It's late in Hawaii. Let's see, it's 11:37. So at least,
Yeah.
But down under, you might have somebody.
It's sort of the right time for down under. It's after dinner and all that sort of stuff. It's sort of half the right time, but
could be the right time.
Oh, anyway. Mate, thank you very much. Until next time,
guys. Yeah.
Peace. Take care.
Later.